Caribbean was mourning the loss of her father. She idolized him. She was daddy's girl. But he was also a womanizer who hurt her mother deeply. Too many cold nights, too many lonely nights, too many loud arguments followed by sobbing in the dark. Still, Caribbean loved her dad anyway. He was her hero. His passing left her empty, with no guide, and she wondered what life would be like without him. Caribbean mourned for days, months, and years, never letting go of her father's memory. It haunted her, but it also stunted her growth. What Caribbean didn't know then was that the silence she saw in her father, the same silence she mistook for strength, would become the chain that bound so many men in her life. To find out why this is the case, stay with me. Hi, and welcome to Boomerang, where we return to the truth, the healing, and the deeper work of being human, where psychology meets African reality. My name is Jerry Kirene. I used to think I understood grief until someone I loved lost someone they loved. I was frustrated. I didn't understand why they grieved so long, why the sadness didn't fade on my timeline. And then I realized the truth. It wasn't just about them, it was about me. I had no capacity for grief, no tolerance for vulnerability. And if I didn't change, I wasn't going to lose them to grief. I was going to lose them. That experience humbled me. It forced me to see grief not as something to be managed or moved on from, but something to be witnessed. Grief, in its purest form, is the heart's natural way of honoring loss. You cry, you rage, you remember, you soften, and then you accept. With time, the sharpness dulls. You learn to live with the ache. Grief was never meant to be a punishment. It was meant to flow through you, not bury you. To be seen so it could loosen its grip. But sometimes it doesn't just go that way. Complicated grief is when loss doesn't find its way out. When love is mixed with trauma. When mourning is tangled with guilt. When you can't grieve freely because the person you lost wasn't perfect. This is common in African families. We grow up being told, don't speak ill of the dead. We're expected to honor without question. So, if your father, mother, or elder both loved you and wounded you at the same time, you're left with nowhere to put that truth. In many African cultures, grief is public in ritual. The wailing at funerals, the elaborate mourning clothes, but private in truth. We are allowed to cry for the dead, but not to speak the full story of who they were. This creates emotional dissonance, where love and pain cannot coexist. Psychology tells us this is dangerous. When grief is silenced, it mutates into depression, shame, and unresolved anger. Psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross once said, "Grief shared is grief diminished." And grief expert Francis Weller teaches, the work of the mature person is to carry grief in one hand and gratitude in the other. Grief needs a witness because when grief is witnessed by a safe friend, a therapist, or a community, the story untangles. You can say, I loved him and he hurt me. She gave me life and she also gave me wounds. That doesn't make you disloyal, it makes you free. When I finally allowed myself to be present to my loved one's grief, to sit with them without fixing, to hear their truth without judgment, I learned that grief isn't weakness. It's a testament to love. And when I faced my own inability to grieve, I discovered the real tragedy wasn't the loss itself. It was living like loss couldn't touch me. So the question is, who have you placed on a pedestal even in death? And what would happen if you allowed yourself to grieve the truth, not just the illusion? And so here are 5 takeaways about grief. Number 1, grief is natural, but it must flow. Suppression turns it toxic. 2, African mourning culture honors death, but often silences truth, which traps grief. 3. Complicated grief is love mixed with pain, and both deserve space. 4. Grief needs a witness, safe spaces, and people who allow the truth to surface. 5. Acknowledging flaws doesn't erase love, it deepens healing. If this stirred something in you, share it with someone. Don't grieve alone. Send this to the person who thinks they have to be strong in silence. And please subscribe to Boomerang Podcast Africa for more conversations where psychology meets African reality and where we speak the truth even when it hurts. For a personal conversation with me, please email me at letstalk@thinktube.africa. And remember, together we heal and together we grow. Bye!